You know, the only thing better than a meeting at the water cooler is a lunch break. That's the best I got.
Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how cringy was that?
I mean, it was interesting.
Well, I've been a dad for 5 years. I think it'll only get worse.
I bet a dad for like 10 years, it gets worse. Yeah.
Dude, what are we talking about today? You want to talk about being a business owner or what?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Well, I want to start with business. Covenant Coffee. We got a new coffee sponsor, and was meeting with Randy today. If you didn't catch the episode with Randy Martin, great episode. But what I love about Covenant Coffee is their mission, right? It says "Hope in a Cup" on the backside, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what they stand for is like he started as in foster system, and really he started missions, and then in the foster system and doing all this stuff. So everyone who works at the coffee shop is a foster kid.
That's wonderful.
Or actually, they're kind of aging out of the foster system, because what he wanted to do is be able to provide an opportunity for people that, because traditionally, like foster system, 18, you're cut off,
they
and you
get
got to
dropped.
figure it out, and a lot of them end up homeless and everything else, right? So he was like, well, how do I provide an opportunity for them to have a job and do all this stuff?
Man, that's
and
cool.
so, that's his whole mission. And now what he's trying to do is, you take the brand even further. Like, right now it's local in Bakersfield, and so, we want to promote Covenant Coffee. If you haven't had Covenant Coffee, first of all, Randy's a Christian. He's a pastor. He's retired from his post as a pastor, though, to go on and lead a different flock, and which he's doing with I think it's at least dozens, if not over 100 foster youth that he's in charge of, helping, and the coffee is just one way of doing that. So we're working with him to push that coffee and push the message out, not just in Bakersfield but nationwide.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what an awesome ministry, because providing opportunities to those who wouldn't have it otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet they're appreciative of having a gig at 18 years
well,
old.
Well, that and his heart, right? Like, he cares. So you don't come into his foster system, which is very much like you, right? It's like, hey, if you're here just for a job, or you're just looking to make money or whatever, I don't want you. I want people that care about the kids.
100%.
So, and just like you at Grindhaus with that, that's his mission, is you're not here unless your heart is to serve.
Come on. And shouldn't that be how every job is? But,
right.
It sets organizations like that apart in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You just hire people who give a crap. You know what I mean?
So if you're watching and you drink coffee, I would say at least 90% of you drink coffee. Go check out Covenant Coffee. And Alex, while they're watching, throw up that website for them. I believe it's covenantcoffee.org. Go check it out. We'll have a link in the show notes also, so you can go check out Covenant Coffee. Support them. Obviously, you drink coffee, and the coffee's good quality coffee, is it not, Blake?
It is.
But more than that, it's also the mission, right? So I always thought, well, Black Rifle, right? And we always like Black Rifle. Mm-hmm. They're not our coffee sponsor. Covenant Coffee is our coffee sponsor. But people like them for their mission, right?
Yeah, values you can get behind.
Exactly. So that's what they're all about. So anyway, we started a conversation before we hit record on the camera here about business and different business stuff, and I know some of the stuff that you have going on in your business, that you've shared with me. I've had very similar kind of experience in business, so it's not easy being a business owner.
Absolutely not. Not for the faint of heart. I think that people often think, and this is not a holier than thou thing or anything, but there's this misconception that if you own a business, you're automatically rich, sitting on your butt at home, just collecting
that
paychecks.
Doesn't happen.
Yeah, I can just set my salary at however many six figures you want. It's not like that. But it could be. It takes a lot of effort, and what we were just talking about, the ability to lead people, because the hardest part of any administrative position, even the people who may not own their own thing, but are higher up in whatever they earned, whatever market, whatever you want to call it, that they got into, you still have to deal with people. in any occupation. And that seems to be the biggest chokehold for me personally is, developing myself as a leader to get people in the right seats and then develop them to further, the organization as a whole.
Right. So, for me, and I've been doing this, I think a little bit longer than you have in business. And I say that because I don't know what the answer is, but I know I've been doing it close to 2 decades now.
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit longer. And I have mentors that have been doing it much longer than I have.
Right.
But so first of all, like my input on that is that's one of the biggest keys to my success or any success that I've had at all is having good mentors around me and having a good support system. Right. So I know your wife is amazing support system for you. Yeah. And my wife is too. So you got to have that at home. Like if you don't have that at home, first of all, you're gonna fall on your face because like there's no way you can continue to go through some of the hard times because it's constant ups and downs and the lows. Like someone might argue with this, but I feel like the lows that we experience as business owners are lower than probably what the average person.
Why do you think that is? I agree, but I want to hear your input on that.
So I think it's for a lot of reasons, multiple reasons. Like one, I think that just what type of person becomes a business owner is a very passionate person. So they feel things on a deeper level. Like the highs are higher than probably most people experience and lows are lower than most people experience. But also, and I was sharing this with my wife the other day, you have a different level of weight on your shoulders, right? Because if you're going to work for somebody else, I'm worried about my family and taking care of them, fighting for them, and I got 5 mouths to feed at home. But if I fail, I'm gonna get fired or whatever, and I'll go get another job. If I fail at my job as a business owner, I have way more than just those 5 mouths that I have to worry about, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So that weight's a lot heavier.
Yeah, I have this conversation with my wife all the time. We're making really hard decisions. Sometimes the thing that comes out of my mouth is like, well, you don't have to look these people in the eye every single day, right? Every decision holds so much more weight when, I've got my family at home and I've got my extended family in my business, right? So making sure that the team is taken care of. At the end of the day, you're not a leader of men because you're in it for yourself.
Right.
I want everybody around me to succeed as well. And so any step, I would say, in the wrong direction, any stumble, every little thing is magnified because I feel like I'm bringing down the ship with me, right?
Right. And really, you hit on something that I think is important. Like, you don't go into business for yourself for the money.
No.
Right? Now, you might aspire to making that money, but Blake, I think I probably know the answer. But you can tell me how you feel or if you feel similarly. But I know that I can go out and get a job tomorrow, make way more money, have a way easier life, and all of this stuff, and work life be easier too. Yeah. And make, high 6 figures doing that, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you could do the same.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like you, at any point you could just, if you're really kicked to the curb and just say, I don't want to lead people anymore and I really don't want to deal with people anymore. You could go into selling go in the oil and gas industry and just go sell pipes or something like that, And I know guys that do that. I know that guys who were business owners said, you know what, I can't deal with the stress anymore. So I'm going to take that sales experience and the people
leadership.
Exactly. And I'm just going to go be charismatic in a different field. Yeah. And dude, they're wildly successful doing it.
Right.
But man, I love seeing athletes do well, and I really, really love pouring into the people in my building. And as long as I'm doing that, man, I want to make sure that everybody top down is taken care of. So yeah, every single thing, even though it might sound trivial from the outside looking in, again, I think that the right word is it just gets magnified by that weight of responsibility resting on our shoulders.
Right. So going back to your question, why do you think that is that you feel the lower lows is because we put so much of ourself into the business, right? So
it's an extension of you.
It is, right? And so you care a lot because it's your baby, right? And so if the weight of a potential failure in that is a lot more than, I screwed up at my job. Right? You're like, my baby died, right? And the emotions that go with that. And I did share with my wife the other day that I think it's cool like to go through the rough times, because it really like equips you. And I think that people who have been in business for a length of time are stronger,
I agree with that.
like very strong individuals, because like you're either going to get out or you're going to get strong, because there's no other way.
Yeah.
Right. Either or I think there, and I'm sure there's stats on this. And I have not been to this level, but I've been, pretty low. I think there's a lot of business owners that take their own life too.
I don't want to know that, but I mean, I'd be interested to see that rate,
Right.
With entrepreneurs, because I mean, it's a high stress gig, not for the faint of heart. I think too, Nassim Taleb calls it anti-fragility, right? So there's like there is fragility, which we all know, it just breaks easily, and then there's resiliency, which essentially you can weather the storm, right? It's the oak tree that weathers, getting struck by lightning. It's still standing. It wasn't really changed either way. But then anti-fragility, according to him, is like growing from every experience, and I think that is probably the story of most successful business owners and just people in general, is that they adapt to that situation. And I mean, I was telling you about my business. It's highly seasonal. We deal with athletes. They're in season, they're out of season, as much as we would want them to, and as much as like they should. A lot of them don't train in season. So we see huge dips in production, every time we hit like a fall season rolls around, football and volleyball take off, spring season rolls around, track and field, baseball takes off, whatever. My first year in business, it was like crushing, man. I'd never been through that before, but every subsequent year since, right, you learn to not only expect it, but also how to implement strategies to kind of set yourself on a firmer foundation, so that not everyone's impacted as deeply by that, right? So it's I don't know. I think that the things that you can deal with in the workplace as an entrepreneur make you strong in every area of life. Keeping a more healthy heartbeat, even, and keeping anxiety at bay and all that stuff. And in my own personal life, man, I would not trade those experiences for the world. I remember like laying face on my bed, pleading with the Lord, like, Lord, get me out of this. And man, all he wanted was for me to draw closer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, dude, let me put my arm around you for a second, because you've been trying to muscle your way through. And I have never been closer to the Lord than in those trying situations, like David, man.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's what, I actually did a video about that a while back. I don't know how long ago, but quite a while ago. That James talks about this, consider it pure joy when you go through trials of various kinds, right? But like that didn't really sink in until being in business for several years.
Your first time going through, you're like, joy? What?
Right.
But now looking back on it,
yeah,
you almost know what to expect.
Right.
And you're like, dude, he's just refining me.
But I think the part that, I consider joy is like you kind of get excited about going through some of those, because like that's when you get really close to God.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because the good times are good, but the tough times is like, that's when you really find your relationship,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just laughing right now. Like literally, we can look back on it and laugh about it now.
Yeah.
Those storms were terrible while you're in them. You know what I mean? So maybe this is, I'm glad this is getting recorded, because maybe I need to play this for myself a year from now.
But I think, a lot of people talk about, the calling. There's, people, you're called to business and called to be a business owner. Not everybody is. And, but I think a lot of people that are in business are called to be in business, because the person that you have to become to be able to lead your family and be able to lead others and be able to lead a business forward is just a whole nother level. You can't stay, and I think that's true for all things, right? But hey, I go work I don't think I could ever possibly work a 9 to 5, but go work in corporate America, make $250,000 a year, like I have some stress, but I'm never gonna achieve that level of personal growth.
Right.
And they I've heard it said a few times at least, and I can't give proper attribution, unfortunately, but that being an entrepreneur is the biggest personal development program that has ever been created.
I believe that. Yeah, it'll beat you down if you let it, but it'll also, it'll. I always think of like smithing. You're a Lord of the Rings fan. Okay. Well, you know what blacksmiths do, right?
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
like forge things.
Yeah,
right?
they weren't only in Lord of the Rings.
I'm like,
They actually existed at a time. They're not really around anymore.
Let's fact check that, Alex. But no, like it's like when you're smelting down, whatever it is. I only know that because I played RuneScape. But it's like when you're taking that ore or whatever and you're making it into something crazy. The Bible talks a lot about precious metals, and things like that, right? Yeah, man. Yeah. You're absolutely right. It is a tool that he uses to just prune us a little bit, a lot. So that's that. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. Not
for the world. And that might be the reason why I think entrepreneurs have a way bigger pedestal to impact the world than their government does.
Oh, yeah.
So, look at the people who are the most powerful people in the world are all entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Well, I had a conversation, which I didn't even really realize this, but with a good friend of mine, I think it was Cody, a while ago, and he was saying about how Billy Graham, said, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago.
Billy Graham, the WWE wrestler?
No.
Oh.
No, Billy Graham, the evangelist,
yes.
Said, 10, 20 years ago, something like that, like before he died, obviously. He didn't say it after he died.
Yeah.
That the next big move of God is going to be in the marketplace.
Mm.
And I see that. I know many business owners, entrepreneurs that are not just Christians and I know them, so I know that they're Christian, but like they're very outspoken and bold with their faith.
Come on.
And not like the old guys that were, I'm going to put a fish on my business card as a marketing ploy, right? You've seen that meme online that says, a guy talking to Jesus, hey, should I put a fish on my business card? And he's like, well, why? He's like, well, so people know that I'm a Christian. It's like, well, no, I think you actually should not put it there and see if people can figure it out on their own.
Mm. Yeah, that's powerful. I don't know how I feel about that. No comment.
Well, I've said for a very long time I never want to be the guy that puts the fish on my business card.
No, 100% not.
And not because I'm not proud of my faith. I'm very proud of my faith.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of my king. But because if someone has to look at my business card and see that fish for them to know that I'm a Christian, then I'm doing it all wrong.
No way. Yeah, they'll know by the life you live. And so, like, for us, you've heard our story, man. We play gangster rap. We don't censor anything.
Yeah.
And dude, I do have Christian families in my gym that like when we put our monthly call for review, or not reviews, but feedback. How are we doing? What's some things we could? They're like, dude, we'd love you cleaned up the music. And I'm like, yeah, we do that. We'd lose half our gym, and then there wouldn't be as many lives for Holy Spirit to work on while they're in here.
Well, another thing I've said for a long time is, and this is maybe controversial, and you're welcome to comment and tell me that you hate the fact that I say it if you want. But I've said for a long time that I think that you can do a lot more impact for the kingdom by buying somebody a beer than by condemning them for having a beer.
Come on.
Right?
Yep.
And now I
that's why you bought me a pint the last time we went out. Huh?
Yeah, we bought a fifth of Jack.
That's right.
No. But that's both literal and metaphoric, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because literally you can, but metaphorically, like with the gangster rap and all that stuff, like you do that in your shop, you're going to attract a different crowd that then can hear about Christ in a different way. And well, Blake, how come you're different, right? Hey, other kids that I'm around, how come you're different, right?
It's a backwards sort of thing, but I think if you understand,
why is it backwards?
Well, a lot of people, I should say, countercultural, right? If we just go back to like, we're dealing with this, and like, my wife and I are doing a deep dive on just how the Lord would parent right now, and we're not reading a bunch of like, we have a couple strong-willed children at home,
Yeah,
we've got our work cut out for them. Exactly. And I'm like, dude, there's no book that has the answers to these kids. I'm like, but it's like those little bracelets that say like, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know that Jesus would beat his kids, or even like, say, oh, they need talking about controversial. Let's talk about spanking. All right. So like, I just don't know what the Lord would ever say. You know, sometimes that kid just really needs to get beat with a belt. And dude, I'm about as hardcore as you can get as like a parent. I was beat with a belt, you know, like I got spanked and I'm glad I did. But man, I'm like,
You think Jesus wouldn't say
the heart
that?
of the Father, huh?
You don't think that God would say that?
I don't think so.
You know the Bible says spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah, but you know what
And
the rod
that's
was?
not metaphoric.
You know what the rod was though?
Okay. Go ahead and tell me.
The rod has a hook on the end.
Uh-huh.
The shepherd uses that hook to draw a sheep near.
Yeah.
So I think that if you know what the rod does, it's not meant to beat the hell out of them.
No, I think there's a big difference between being abusive and being disciplinary.
No. I'm like, how can we meet our children's needs, right? Like the same approach we take in our facility, right? It's like, how can we secure our kids' needs and make them feel fulfilled, even in a strength and conditioning setting, which again, to the outside listener, maybe that wasn't an athlete, might sound so trivial, but I'm like, you're always looking for better buy-in from your kids, from your employees, from whatever. How can we meet their needs better? In my own home, I'm like, I don't want my kids to have any holes in their heart left by dad, like when really they needed a shoulder to cry on or really something to be explained to them, you know, get down on their level instead of, well, out of anger, I whipped out the belt or the spoon or choose your weapon, you know what I mean? So it's interesting. I don't think we have all the answers yet, but, you know, going back to like why we play rap music in our gym, it's like, I want to meet sinners where they're at. I want to break bread with them. I want to buy them a beer, exactly like you said, you know? I think that people who are just looking to shake hands with sinners, new people they see in church, are missing the point. You know, and man, this took a turn from we sat down to talk about business.
That's all right, but another thing that I like to say often is Jesus never said go into the church and make disciples.
Right.
He said go out into the world.
Yeah.
Meet them where they're at.
Go into the world.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's interesting. I think you got to do life with people. And like we've been talking about, man, whether it's business or whether it's ministry, whatever, it has to be predicated on relationships.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And
that's how me and Tom got connected, was just fostering a relationship, spending time, which is the real currency, right? And investing that in other people. Dude, in any pursuit, you could be like a high school teacher or a gas station clerk or whatever, relationships win.
Yeah. Well, and I was talking to my wife about that today. We got some things going on in our life right now. And I was like, we're having to, make a couple phone calls, not necessarily calling favors, but I mean, in a way it is, right? But I told Ludavia, I said, this is coming about not because of somebody I know, but seeds that were planted and relationships that were nurtured for 10 years, right? So like,
that's real equity.
There's very, very little that I can't accomplish right now, because I know I can pick up the phone and call, at least a dozen or 2 dozen people that are close to me that would connect me to the right people, even if I don't already know them.
Well, you put in the time on the front end.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
And I mean over years.
Right.
And it compounds.
I'm a very
interest.
relational guy, right?
Wait, what?
I'm a very relational guy.
Let's fact check that, Alex.
And I build relationships really quickly. I build rapport quickly, but because I'm genuine and transparent.
You're genuine. Right?
Yeah. But I don't just like, oh, cool, I planted some seeds. Cool, I'll go pull that back out of the ground right when I need it. I continue building those relationships.
Right. And doesn't that take intentionality?
Right.
Like
it does.
intention, I should say.
Right.
Because I mean, it's not easy reaching out to people on a regular basis, and checking in, even if you might live on different sides of the continent, whatever. But I think that's what we're called to do as believers. I always say, like, the reason why that guy on the corner doesn't get a lot of traction preaching, doomsday messages and things like that is probably because he's just
no relationship.
He's yelling at people without having earned a pedestal to speak from.
Yeah.
Well,
so. and I told that was the other thing I was telling Ludavia earlier. Is I said a lot of people question me at times, like, why do you do that for free? I help people for free, or our company is supposed to make money, and it does. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we do stuff for free, like fairly regularly.
Yes.
Why do you do that for free? I said, this right here is because of that, right? We needed this, and I didn't know when I was going to need it, but I just did the right thing and take care of people.
Yeah. Do you feel like the Lord tugs on your heart when that's supposed to happen, or is that just something he's just given you discernment to use when you need?
I think it's a little bit of both, but more heavily on the discernment side.
Sure. And you're never thinking about that though. You're
Right.
not like letting your left hand know what your right hand's doing kind of a deal. It's just, I don't know. I think you do it for long enough, and obviously you're blessed enough. We've all heard that saying, like, you can't outgive God, you know?
Right.
But I mean, it's so true, man. You don't do it expecting it. That's the difference. It's just that those things tend to come back around.
Well, if you do it expecting it, you won't get it.
That is so true.
Right.
That is so true. Yeah.
So
investing in people without any hope of reward or anything like that.
yeah.
Man, I love that. And that's leadership, isn't it?
Yeah.
We were talking about, like, you know, sometimes I'm just beating my head against the wall. Like, what am I missing as a leader? More often than not, it goes back to like, well, what relationship equity do you have there, right? Like if it's like a bank account, what is that sitting at? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, why can't I get this out of this one person? It's like, well, you haven't earned it.
Yeah.
That's such a humbling realization when it comes.
Right.
So it's interesting, man. Anyways, so if you haven't, that was like 10 topics in 26 minutes, but you know, it's like being a business owner is awesome. And it teaches you so many great things. Obviously, like you said, it takes a very certain individual, probably very type A, you know, somebody who's very on their game and wants to be great for themselves, their family, and those around them. But, you know, I think the Lord raises people into those positions to truly change the world. I truly believe that. Because think of like your sphere of influence. How much greater is it right now, you know, than, I don't know,
If I was
10
working
years
somewhere
ago?
else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness. The networking, the connections, all that kind of stuff. And those are all avenues for the Lord to just use you.
Right. Well, there's very few. So what's interesting is there's very few things. Like people come to me about all sorts of different things.
Sure.
Right. And because I've developed that network, I may not have the answer, but I can get you the answer.
I love that.
So, you know, but now later when I got you that answer, hey, I have a question about working out.
Yeah.
I have a question about.
Guess who's glad to give that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you know, I know I can call Steve at any moment, and Steve will, you know, take care of me, right?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, it's even I just think of like the inner workings of the early church, right? They were all like sitting in rooms together, breaking bread, doing life together, and I mean, they were being oppressed, all kinds of stuff, whether it was out of fear of, you know, being persecuted or literally they just chose to go a different path, and that just became their natural tribe. Like Scripture says, not to neglect, meeting with the brethren, right? And it's like, I've even fallen into that myself. Becoming a business owner, you pave a different path than everyone else around you. Did you find that, like, when you started this, did you lose any friends?
Oh, yeah.
Or like, it's like a natural cleaving of you and all of your, what do you call that? Not connections. Maybe some relationships that don't understand why you're putting in those long days,
Right.
taking these trips, doing all this stuff, and you're like less available because you got to be there for your family first.
yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's something that I've been clawing tooth and nail to get back into. You know, I'm thankful for you, Tom, everyone else, because even Alex.
But you develop different relationships, and then
They're so much more meaningful now, I
Right,
think. You know?
right.
So, yeah.
and
amazing.
you know, it's crazy as being in that world for as long as I have. I have very few of my closest friends live in Bakersfield.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my closest friends live in other parts of the country. Some of them live in other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because you find the people that you can relate to, right?
Absolutely.
And there's a limited pool of those people that exist in general, but the smaller you get, like Bakersfield, for example, there's a very limited pool of those people.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Don't knock Bakersfield, dude.
And nothing wrong with Bakersfield.
on,
I
man.
like Bakersfield.
Come on, man.
I'm born and raised here, but I'm just saying, you know, don't be afraid to get outside of the city. The
No,
state.
totally. I would say that majority of my best friends are all like facility owners or something similar, you know, in my industry, but all across the United States and the UK and stuff like that. It's I think that's kind of the natural order of things, right? You naturally gravitate to people you can relate to,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And isn't that ministry? Like people need to be able to relate to you to have any like,
That's right.
I don't know if you want to use the word influence, but like, again, you want to have a foothold in their life that you can like, I don't want to say We're not beating anybody over the head with Bibles or anything like that. But if you want to talk about Jesus and it actually means something, and then listen. Well, I don't know. Got to be a little bit relatable. That's why we listen to the gangster rap. That's it. You know, I got to be able to
come full circle.
That's right. I got to stay up to date with this stuff. That's probably one of the hardest things, dude, is I don't listen to secular music. So like I hear the stuff coming on, I feel old.
Yeah.
It is the fastest way to feel old is like, I don't know who Doja Cat is. I have no idea. And I don't know, something will come on and
well, I'm even further out, right? Because I'm considerably older than you, but
you get hit with that daily.
No, I listen to podcasts, audiobooks, and worship music.
Yeah, same.
And sometimes some country.
It's okay to be wrong. Is it?
Why, you don't listen to country and
no,
you're
I'm
wrong?
the
Is that
only
what
guy
you're
from
trying to say?
Bakersfield that does not listen to country.
Oh, yeah, it is okay to be wrong, I guess.
Yeah.
You drive a truck.
I was born and raised here, man. I don't know how that ever happened. Like I told you, I had two super white collar parents. That's probably what it was.
Okay.
But they listened to the Doobie Brothers.
That's my parents.
There you go.
My dad loves Steely Dan.
Okay, no idea who that is. But
okay, you've heard him before. I got to introduce you to Steely Dan.
Fair enough.
Anyway, go drink some Covenant coffee. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. God bless.